right, on to Privacy Watch now, and Facebook is revealing some of its efforts to remove inflammatory content from its site. Amid promises of transparency, the social network released an 86-page report detailing the inappropriate posts and fake accounts removed from the site in the first quarter of this year. More than 500 million accounts were spam, and some of deleted content was related to terrorism, violence, nudity, and hate speech.
The company also claims they're trying to be more transparent about the amount of data its users use and that's requested by the government. Here to talk more about the report is Wired editor-in-chief and CBS News contributor Nick Thompson. Good to see you.
Hey, Vlad. How are you?
Good, good. So tell us what this report means for users.
Well, it doesn't mean a ton for any specific user. It's just Facebook saying there are this many hundreds of millions of pieces of spam, nudity, graphic content, stuff to get rid of. This is what we got rid of. This is what we were able to find before users flagged it. This is what we were able to find after users flagged it. It's Facebook just saying, here's some more insight into how our platform operates, what we're trying to do. I mean, I guess for users, what it means is that Facebook is pretty good at getting rid of objectionable content.
Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious about this objectionable content. Did we learn anything about what it was that they were getting rid of?
Well, you know, the thing that was most interesting to me is that they're very good at getting rid of what they classify as terror content, what they classify as nudity. It turns out that algorithms are pretty good at identifying whether a picture has nudity in it, and they're pretty good at identifying terrorism content. Hate speech, way harder, because it's really hard to understand the exact syntax, the cultural context, what a word means if said by one person versus another person. That's a really hard problem. So Facebook said, I think the data was 38% of hate speech we were able to identify before users flagged it, 95% of nudity. So they're way better at nudity than at hate speech. Hate speech is a harder problem. I thought that was interesting.
Right. Yeah. So this is content that was both flagged by users but also picked up by their algorithms.
Well, some of it, the algorithms, and so there are three ways it can get flagged. It can get flagged by an algorithm. It can get flagged by a Facebook moderator. So they have 10,000 people going up to 20,000 people like looking at stuff, and it get flagged by a user. So they're saying flagged by either A or B, the algorithms or the content moderators versus the users.
For some of these videos that get flagged, for example, that show violent content, how does the algorithm and even a user sort of distinguish between, for example, an ISIS video that shows some kind of a brutal murder and a clip of the Zapruder film showing the assassination of President Kennedy with, you know, the headshot?
Yeah,
but I know it's something that Twitter has struggled with as well, to decide, you know, well, what one person considers violent may be historical or needing a little bit more context.
Right. So the classic case where this came up was with the naked woman fleeing the bombing in Vietnam. Right. And that was in, I think it was probably October of 16. Right. And Facebook flagged that as, you know, child nudity and wiped it off the platform. There was outrage ensuing. And that was when Facebook said, okay, you're not going to have an algorithm that can solve this. You're going to need a human with some historical knowledge. And that would be the same thing with the Zapruder example you just gave. Another example would be somebody shows a policeman shooting somebody. Is that showing graphic content, or are they showing it to expose a wrongdoing? And again, you're just going to need to have a well-trained human moderator to solve that. AI is not going to solve that right now.
And then what about these fake accounts that, you know, may look like legitimate accounts, but they have sort of malicious intent? I mean, how successful are they at rooting those out?
Hard to say. I mean, they estimated that 3 to 4% of accounts are fake, but how do they know, right? Because the ones that are really good, they haven't caught. So of the ones they identified as fake, they removed them all. They were extremely successful. Of the ones they didn't find, not as successful.
Right, clearly.
So, I mean, the data was impressive, but I mean, we have to wait a little bit for outsiders to study the data and say, well, you know what? I think they kind of missed all these fake accounts.
So let's talk about the idea that perhaps Mark Zuckerberg was going to testify in front of Parliament in the United Kingdom. Now Facebook saying that he's not.
I don't think there ever was a moment where he was going to.
Well, I mean, I know they want to talk to him.
I mean, everybody wants to talk to him. I mean, I think his position is every government in the world would like me to talk to them. Am I going to go to the UK, which is a long trip from Palo Alto, where people are just going to harass me and ask all these incredibly mean questions? I don't know whether he wants to spend his time doing that. He sent his CTO. Yeah. The CTO gave answers that the UK Parliament deemed unsatisfactory. And this has led to the slightly hilarious possibility that Zuckerberg could be arrested while at a layover at Heathrow Airport, right? I mean, they have threatened to subpoena him. I mean, I think it will sort itself out. Zuckerberg will testify via video conference. He will give written answers. There will be a solution to this. The UK does not want to subpoena Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg doesn't want to be subpoenaed, but he also doesn't want to take 3 days and fly to the UK, you know, to to have a horrible testimony that will then show up in all the European tabloids with, his Facebook.
I think part of that is because everybody has sort of suggested that the questions from parliamentarians would be a lot tougher than the questions, even though he received sort of a grilling here. No. There's no time limit there. There's a little bit more of a freedom for the MPs to get at the questions, and it won't be as political.
But I also say certainly the parliamentarians have at least displayed a more thorough understanding of how Facebook works and how these platforms work. It seemed like our lawmakers were sort of questioning him on some really basic things, but also it seemed like he didn't really have all the answers.
Yeah. So in the U.S., they were like asking, "Please set up my Wi-Fi," right? But,
right.
And he didn't have the part they didn't have the answers to was on how the ad tech works, because that's not something he studied. I think he has, studied up on that. But I do think he thinks it's going to be a lot more hostile, not just for the reason you said, but also because they're European regulators and they don't like American tech companies. In America, we're really proud of these companies. So even when we're angry, we still kind of love them. In Europe, they're resentful and jealous, and so they're angry, right? So it's a very different political situation. I mean, should he go? Should he not go? Like, if you were to list all the countries in the world, every single country would like him to testify, right? It's good theater, it's interesting, and it's important. Probably the second place you should go is Germany, right? I mean, like, you should probably go and deal with EU regulations. Like, if there were a full EU regulatory meeting, I think Zuckerberg should show up. Just the UK, probably he should show up, but he clearly doesn't think it's worth his time. Or,
Probably not going to.
Complicated game theory there.
It is.
I hope he doesn't get arrested at Heathrow, because that would be insane. It would be insane.
I doubt it.
But you
think he's okay? They're not going to walk into the lounge, whatever sort of high-end lounge he hangs out at?
If Mark Zuckerberg gets arrested at Heathrow, I can guarantee you there will be a change in European government in the next election. Just kidding. That would never happen.
Thompson fomenting revolution there on CBSN.
Thank you, Nick.
Pleasure to be here.